Liminality, concept most popularized as of recently by the Backrooms creepypasta and image published to 4chan in 2019, is still a big fascination online today, or at least I assume most of the demographic for the Backrooms is children too young to have a YouTube account. Kinda saddens me to see where liminal spaces have come to. Of course, there are great examples of creators making Backrooms and other liminal concepts interesting. Kane Pixels comes to mind. But I have the feeling that the concept of liminality could be explored so much better than I feel it has been.
What if you grow up in Level Fun Plus? If you enter as a baby and become an adult in Level Fun Plus, if you interact with party poopers or be friends with them, party creators and party goers will feel betrayed.
This idea brought me to looking into my past to see what liminal content I've enjoyed. Immediately my mind jumped to Portal. Portal is a game I'm sure needs no introduction. 2007 hit game with enough popularity to result in a sequel and spin-off comic. Portal 1 and 2 are masterpieces of gameplay and story. If you're watching this, then I'm sure I don't need to explain much about the games, but underneath all the head-scratching puzzles, hilarious dialogue, and gripping narrative is a setting that I feel doesn't get enough attention, or at least not in the way I'd like. At the start of the game, we look around to find ourselves in a white, almost clinical chamber. The only sense of company being a radio playing an upbeat tune. That is, until GLaDOS greets the player.
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Computer-Aided Enrichment Center.
But even then, GLaDOS is far removed from the player. She's this robotic narrator who takes you through each chamber, guiding you to the next one. She can't connect to us the same way a person could. Throughout the game, her dialogue even glitches out a few times, revealing her robotic nature. Now, this opening scene is fantastic. It establishes mystery as well as an unnerving atmosphere, an atmosphere that only becomes more and more unnerving as the game goes on. We quickly realize that these blank rooms are going to be around for quite a while, possibly even the whole game. As we make our way chamber through chamber, they all look pretty similar. Either plain white walls or these slick black walls. What makes Portal seem so liminal to me is, I feel, the empty rooms with the futuristic tech, the strange artificial-like lighting, and the lack of any real connection to the outside world. The fact that Portal runs on the Source engine is also a big reason why it feels so empty and liminal, as textures and environments made in the engine are known for being unnerving. It seems that a lot of abandoned places and empty landscapes seem to fill Source games for some reason. But what unnerves me the most about the rooms in Portal is that there are observation rooms we can see near the top of the chambers. Normal for a testing facility, right? Being observed is obviously part of the testing. Well, that's the thing, they're empty. Every single one is empty. Instead of being watched by people, we are tracked by cameras that GLaDOS will even ask you not to destroy or damage if you knock them down. This isn't to say there aren't any signs of life in the facility. If you know anything about Portal, you know about Ramen. He's the only real sign of life in the Aperture facilities in the first game. Around the facility, hidden behind wall panels, you can find his dens. How he got to these is unclear, but they're an obvious sign that he's been there. He has written these unnerving warnings of betrayal and panicked drawings throughout the test chambers. Later, as we are escaping, we even see his drawings leading us to freedom, or at least leading us to GLaDOS. Even though we get signs of life through Ratman, we never really find out if he's alive or not while playing the first game. After reading the Lab Rat spin-off comic about him though, we can find out that he was indeed alive during the events of Portal 1. We even learn that he was keeping a close eye on the protagonist Shell throughout the game. Unfortunately, his fate seems quite grim at the end of the comic as he suffers a bullet wound to his leg and ends up sealing himself in a hibernation chamber. Moving back to the eeriness of the chamber rooms, another thing about these chambers that unnerves me is the machinery behind the scenes. Throughout these chambers, we can observe slight glimpses beyond the walls of the main chamber we're in. The machinery behind the chamber panels consists of these large pipes, red, almost rusty looking walls, and an ominous red glow that comes from the source of the pipes. This constant intrigue and mystery behind the chamber rooms and the reasons that Shell is contained here are what make the environment feel so mysterious and isolated to me. It's the concept of the unknown, the fact that everything looks so maintained, yet no one can be found or heard. It's unnerving. The radio is also a reoccurring object throughout the chambers. It's a great motif that I believe is meant to get the player to think that there may be others who have or are progressing through these chambers. There's just something creepy about a lonely radio playing with no one to listen to it. The reveal of GLaDOS is another great impact to this sense of isolation and eeriness. As we approach the chamber she's contained in, we walk past offices. Empty ones, of course. We can even get peeks at slideshows still being run. We can even explore some of the observation rooms that we saw at the top of our test chambers before. Of course, these are all signs that humans should be here and working, but they aren't. The actual room that GLaDOS is contained in is massive. Through windows on the outside of the chamber, we see that she's in this giant cube surrounded by empty space. The build-up is fantastic. Then, when we finally enter the chamber, we're met with a giant robotic mass hanging from the ceiling. I think the last scene where she is being pulled up into the ceiling is fantastic as well. While her robotic parts are tearing apart, you can distinctly see two arm-like appendages that flail around as she dies. These are in her design the whole time, but are much more apparent here in my opinion. Comparison to her design looking like that of a strung-up woman is most apparent during this scene. Is this design fitting for her character? Yeah, but the reason it's fitting is only really explored in the second game. So for this game, I feel that the design for GLaDOS can be more interpreted as her being the last thing that resembles a person. But even though she resembles a person, she's still being held against her will by technology and science. Kind of like the protagonist Shell is being kept here to run scientific experiments and testing. Maybe I'm looking too far into it, I just think it's interesting. In any case, it seems to be confirmed to the player during this boss fight with GLaDOS that she killed all the workers and many of the test subjects in the facility. This would explain the emptiness and lack of real supervision throughout the game. After we defeat her, we find ourselves outside, though unfortunately for Shell, she's pulled back into the facility to have fun in the sequel. Now, why did I cover Portal 1 and not Portal 2? Well, I simply believe the liminal feel of Portal 1 just isn't as present in Portal 2. It's still there, of course, but there are too many outside factors that tone down the unknowns and liminal environments. Now there's foliage in the facility. Wheatley is basically just a fun sidekick for half the game, and GLaDOS takes the role for the other half. We know how the facility works now, and who's in charge. It just doesn't have the luxury of being mysterious anymore. And that's perfectly fine. I prefer Portal 2 over Portal 1, but the point is the same. I do have to give credit to the Easter egg and tie-in with Half-Life of the missing Borealis ship, as the empty dock is perfectly mysterious and eerie. Just the idea of this enormous empty dock that's supposed to be housing a massive vessel, and it's just missing, it's gone, with no apparent explanation, that stuff is creepy. I like it a lot. The last thing I want to mention is Portal's soundtrack. The first and second game both have fantastic soundtracks. They fit the futuristic and scientific feel of the games. Throughout each of the testing chambers through Portal 1, you can notice this low groaning ambience throughout each of the chambers, almost like that of machinery playing in the background. It feels like the facility is making noise itself, that the walls are humming. The fact that you're left to usual silence in these chambers with nothing to listen to but the groaning of the facility and the blank environments that you have to solve puzzles in, it really adds to the sense of mystery and isolation. That's about it though. I believe those are all my points for why Portal 1 is this masterpiece of a game that perfectly uses the isolated and liminal feel of its gameplay to further unease the player. I just think it's done masterfully and is a type of horror that I wish was around more often. This sense of the unknown, while it's not directly scary, the horror of being by yourself in an unknown place is still a sense of horror that I wish we could tap into again. So yeah, if you've watched this far, thank you so much. This whole YouTube thing is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I just never really got around to doing it, so I hope I'm doing okay. This is my first time trying it for real. I have other ideas for videos, like more game analysis, some internet horror analysis maybe. I just really enjoy those two things, so it would be cool to make more videos on them. I do want to do gaming content, but I feel less comfortable recording videos of gaming content. I think I'd rather stream it, so expect some YouTube streams of video games. I'm thinking of playing just bad horror games. It sounds like a lot of fun. But who knows? So yeah, I don't know. Analysis videos are just, it's a lot of effort, but it's a lot of fun. I really like doing this. Anyway, that's it. thank you again for watching. I guess I'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
It also says you were adopted, so that's funny too.